Hello, this is Gregory Becker, and this is Week 1, Module 4 of Developing the Risk Management Plan with Expert Judgment. In this module, we return to the Panama Canal and its interesting case of the new locks. On this project, management ran into the same iron triangle risks of schedule, scope, and cost, but they also ran into some unexpected problems with natural hazards, delayed revenues, and engineering performance. It's an interesting case, so let's get going.
So how did risks materialize at Panama, and how did the project actually do against our iron triangle of cost, schedule, and scope? Well, in fact, the cost was somewhat more than had been anticipated. Probably not a surprise to you listening to this. There were construction delays. That was maybe a little more of a surprise, and those delays were actually reasonably substantial, and that led to significant delays in revenues from future transits through the canal, and that is actually lost cash. It turned out that there were earthquake hazards that had not been anticipated. This was not fault of the project manager or the project administration. This was probably attributable to planning or to other things, but it nonetheless affected the project substantially. And there were some issues, which we'll talk about to the extent to which the project met its requirements. It met its requirements in the sense that it's up and operating and ships are transiting, but there are other issues which we will discuss. One of them was water resources. You can see here in the picture at the left the new third locks, and then these large water retention basins, the purpose of which was to minimize the loss of fresh water from Lake Gatun out to the Pacific Ocean or to the Gulf of Mexico on the two respective sides. There is still an issue about available freshwater resources, and I'll mention that a little bit more. And secondly, there was an environmental requirement that turned out to have some impacts that were not entirely expected, and that is the extent of salination of the freshwater resources in the lake due to the transits and the incursion of salt water in the locks, and we'll come back to that. Well, how did the project do on cost? Well, depends how you measure. Compared to the Suez Canal, it actually that had a 20 times overrun. It actually didn't do so bad. It only had a 60% overrun. The original estimate was about $5.25 billion. The actual cost turned out to be about $8 billion. Now, that is not entirely unexpected. The engineer's estimate before the project was let out to bid was about $7.5 billion. And there were three bids. The lowest bid was $5.25, and that was the bid that was accepted. There was a second bid at about 7.5 and a third bid which was substantially higher. So one might look at this and say that the low price bid was quite optimistic, and one should not have expected this project to come in for so little money, and of course it didn't. The embankment had to be redesigned for reasons having mostly to do with the earthquake hazard, which had not been anticipated. That caused both changes to the design, increased engineering cost, increased construction time and cost, and those impacts were really not shouldn't be laid at the feet of the project manager of the construction. But all of this caused delay and therefore increased financing costs and also delayed revenues. And there was another issue, which again, not necessarily laid at the feet of the project manager for this project, but an issue of planning and design and engineering. And that is that after the project has been in place, it looks like a very expensive new water supply project to generate more freshwater supply into the lake is probably going to be necessary.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this free lesson from the University of Maryland's Project Management Center for Excellence. If you want to check out more lessons just like this one, click the link in the description below where you'll be able to go to our website on executive project management. There, you can find edX courses, professional short courses where you can learn from an instructor like me, as well as request custom team training for you and your organization. All right, let's get back to the lesson, and I'll see you at the end.
Something else happened on the project, which again, not laid at the feet of the project manager for the construction, but at about the same time as the new canal locks were being designed and built, the engineering division at the canal discovered in colonial records in Madrid from the government of the 1600s, when Panama City was a major transshipment point for gold coming up from the Pacific coast of South America, being transshipped by mule across the isthmus and then shipped back to Madrid. Colonial records show that in 1620 there had been a major earthquake in the old city of Panama, which essentially destroyed the old city. And that the extent of that earthquake and its intensity had not been well understood before. So there was undertaken a large geological and seismological survey of the isthmus, and you can see there on the left-hand geological map a whole family of active earthquake faults which had not been fully appreciated and fully understood at the time of the design of the new locks. The issue became, how likely was it that during the design life of the new locks that a significant earthquake might occur? And you can see in the lower right-hand side of the geological map that the Pedro Miguel fault runs right through the access channels of the new locks on the Pacific side. And the appraisal was that the earthquake, while not highly probable, could be very, very large. And so this was considered a sizable threat to the canal structure. And the canal, certainly the access levees, access embankments had to be redesigned. They had to be designed more like dams than levees. And this had a large impact on budget time and scope. It's one of those uncontrollable by the project manager risks. And what were the impacts on the scope? Well, the good news is there were 3,000 new transits in the first 20 months. The canal, the new locks are open and operating. They seem to be working just fine. Now larger post-Panamax ships can transit the canal, and those revenues are in the order of a couple $2 billion US a year to the Canal Authority and to the government of Panama. So that's the project is up and operating, even though it took longer and cost more than had been planned. Is there enough water? Well, maybe not. And again, not laid at the feet of the project manager, laid at the feet maybe of design and engineering, but it looks like the authority is going to have to invest significant amounts of money in new water supplies for Lake Gatun. There was also an environmental impact. It's not clear to what extent that was due to control issues or quality issues in the construction, and how much it was just an unforeseen or only partly foreseen problem of the design. I mean, that is an engineering, not a project management, not a construction management problem. But the new locks, at least on the Pacific side, are leaking salty water into the freshwater resources up at the lake level, and something is going to have to be done about that, and that's inevitably going to cost some money. Well, so that's what happened in Panama. The project is done. It's a great success from a technical point of view, but from a management point of view, it took somewhat more money than we thought, took a little bit more time than we thought, and maybe there's some issues of scope that still have to be grappled with. So where do we go next? Well, in the next module, we're going to talk about planning for risk. In this first 4 modules, we've talked about what is risk and given some examples of a project. In the next 4 modules, we're going to talk about how the project manager lays out what might happen and starts to plan for eventualities. So we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Hey there, did you enjoy that lesson as much as I did? If you did, go ahead and give us a like. If you want to see another one, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, put them below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Moreover, is there somebody in your life who really needs this lesson right now? If so, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where you can learn even more from the University of Maryland Project Management Center for Excellence. Thanks so much.